All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another session. Today we are going to be going over AWS Innovation. So let's start off with section one, discussing what is design thinking. So design thinking is mainly a method which is used for the purpose of comprehending people, questions, problems, and solutions. It's also used to turn ideas into both physical and evaluable products as soon as possible. And the design thinking framework consists of three parts, which is immersion, ideation, and implementation. So now let's go through the five stages of the design thinking process. It's important to note that these five stages aren't always followed in a specific order, and they can often occur at the same time and repeat numerous times. The five stages are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So for empathize, this is where you discover your target audience and you learn more about them, such as their problems and necessities. In defining, you determine the problem statement, and here you're able to focus on users' needs. The problem statement is a guiding tool. For ideate, you collaborate with others who have different areas of expertise. And in this specific case, you want quantity over quality. Prototype is where the goal is to create a product that can be evaluated and critiqued. And for testing, users are going to provide feedback, which is going to help determine if your solution is viable or not. And this ultimately saves money in the long term. Okay, the Cloud Innovation Center, or CIC. So this creates a chance for nonprofit institutions, education services, and government departments to work with other public sector companies. Here you collaborate on issues of high importance, and the CIC can help test issues using Amazon's innovation process. You harness the technology of AWS, and any nonprofit institutions, education services, or government departments are able to register in order to work on an assignment. So, what is a culture of innovation? Amazon aims to be the world's most customer centric organization, and they do this to four main customer sets, which are consumers, sellers, enterprises, and content creators. So, there are a few certain characteristics of an innovative culture that you should keep in mind. The first one is hiring builders, the next one is fail fast, the next one is work backwards, and then the last one here is two pizza teams. So, hire builders. Here, you obviously want to hire builders who have different backgrounds and points of view in order to make decisions. For fail fast, you want to try all possibilities and ultimately be accepting of failure if it shows up. For working backwards, you want to make sure that you're constantly driving customer centric ingenious thinking. And this is usually used to make sure that the product is what the customer needs. And finally, for two pizza teams, you want to try to hire efficient workers in order to minimize both communication and unnecessary meetings. It's named two pizza teams because an innovation team should require no more than two pizzas to feed a small team. So this basically is just following the notion of quality is better than quantity, and it's better to have fewer people who can do more rather than a large amount of people who don't do as much. The formula for innovation is a mixture of culture, people, and tools slash mechanisms. You can see the equation here reads innovation is equal to culture plus people plus tools and mechanisms. And this is a video on design thinking. If you would want to learn more on it, obviously, as we've said in all of the previous live streams, all of these extra videos that you see on the slides are going to be available in the description of the live stream once we've ended it. Okay, starting off section 2, we're going to be going into more detail on the 5 W's of innovation at Amazon. Number 1 is what is innovation? Next is where does innovation take place? There's who innovates, when does one innovate, and why innovate. So, what is innovation? Innovation is a successful integration of new thoughts into society. Innovation takes place everywhere, and it can range from inventing something to actually improving it. Who innovates? Everybody. Innovation is the way one goes about their work. And when does one innovate? At every section. It occurs because of ongoing events and unexpected circumstances. And why innovate? Because everything depends on it. Innovation is responsible for creating new opportunities in order to serve customers in the best way. So there are different models of innovation, and each has its own pros and cons. A way to categorize them is by separating it across a continuum of continuous and discontinuous. Continuous is innovation, which is described as incremental, evolutionary, and reactive. And it's the more linear type, which changes for constant increase over time. And discontinuous, on the other hand, is the innovation which is described as disruptive, revolutionary, and transformative. And it's nonlinear or abrupt changes. So you can see in the picture, excuse me, to the right, there's an example of continuous and discontinuous development in relation to infancy to adulthood. And you can see the continuous development is more in a linear path rather than the discontinuous development, which is more in like steps. So the steps basically show abrupt and nonlinear changes, and obviously continuous development is linear and smooth changes. Innovation process. The most common process to upholding the innovation is known as working backwards, and it depends on working deliberately according to both the goal and shared thoughts. It's constantly injecting innovation into independent and teamwork. Excuse me. It requires working backwards from the customer, and this means to constantly come back to the customer's ideas for solving problems. At this point, you want to work repetitively and continually while reevaluating the problem at hand. Working intentionally. So this is both intentful and determined, of course, and it siphons AWS's customer obsession into solving a certain conflict. So here, organizations work specifically in order to make sure that their business decisions are orderly managed. The teams work purposefully together, and individual workers take the lead and ownership of their own efforts in order to optimize innovation. So the starting place for working intentionally is the vision and the mental models. The vision is an idea of how certain things could be contrasting to the status that they are currently. And this contradicts conventional wisdom. It's rigid on the actual vision, but rather relaxed on the specifics. There's also mental models, like I said. So these are just basic ideas that act as obviously the base for generating ideas. And it raises ideas from the ground while providing them with superior direction. It's formed as a statement of cause and effect, and it's known for creating new ideas. Working backwards. So this is made up of the 5 customer questions. Who is the customer? What is the customer's problem or opportunity? What is the most important customer benefit? How do you know what the customers want or need? And what does the actual customer experience look like? And the ultimate objective of these questions is to maintain the customer's importance and also to keep them involved in the innovation process. Again, another video that will be found in the description of the live stream.
So
We are now on section or day 3, starting off with working iteratively. So the innovation process becomes iterative, especially during execution. And many ideas are known for never getting past the analysis phase. And this is ironically called analysis paralysis. Execution is when an organization chooses to commit to an idea. And as a result of this, they're going to hire a leader and a committed team. Successful execution leads to experimentation, and experimentation is the heart of success. However, the research that takes place must be limited to answering specific questions related to serving customers. Now let's talk about one-way doors and two-way doors. These both relate to decisions that are made. One-way doors are decisions that are difficult to return to once they have been made. On the other hand, two-way doors are decisions that are reversible, and they're usually made quickly by superior groups and higher-level individuals. So where do ideas come from? Four places on the slide you can see. It starts with expertise and a beginner's mind. There's irrational optimism and grit. There's listening and imaging, and then there's also history and science fiction. So expertise in a beginner's mind. Opening a mind influences perspective, and it helps for new ideas to emerge. It prevents personal bias, assumptions, and limitations. Irrational optimism and grit. These are ideas that are commonly accepted, and they shouldn't be neglected immediately. Resilience is extremely important because it helps one make their good idea a reality, and being misunderstood isn't always a negative. Listening and imaging. So ideas come from visualizing a customer's idea before they can do so themselves. Here you get to know your customer, and you get to put yourself in their shoes. A great amount of AWS's ideas came from actually listening to customers. Finally, there's history and science fiction. Ideas come from both a combination of failure and success, and ideas can be inspired from external sources. Now, for talking about a PRFAQ. PRFAQ stands for Press Release and Frequently Asked Questions. A press release is a one-page narrative that describes AWS's vision using customer-centric language. Press release, or PR, is used to envision how the customer is going to react to the product. PRFAQ helps to sort through ideas, and it ultimately ensures that ideas are worthy of investment. Elements of the PRFAQ. So this is a skill that takes practice to master, and it's known as the crafting process because of the draft and edit system used. It's a shared plan. You want to make sure that you're sharing the plan early for feedback from supervisors. FAQs are developed to answer questions that a customer may have, and there are two types, the customer and the stakeholder FAQ. For customer FAQ, you imagine that you are the customer and you're writing questions and answers a real customer would have. For stakeholder FAQ, these are questions your superiors or your partners may ask. It's really crucial that you identify difficult questions early when working backwards and incorporate these as both customer and stakeholder FAQs. What's a visual? A visual allows one to explore the customer experience, and it's used to show how the customer is going to use the product and how they want to use it. As the project matures, the visual can ultimately become more detailed. Visual presentation is how pictures, images, and diagrams express ideas. Visual presentation maximizes the effectiveness of a presentation. Another video on working backwards, which will be put in the description. Section 4. So this is an example of a visual in the form of a comic. It starts off by showing a guy who says, "Today I need to go to the new municipality to issue the address proof certificate." So this is an example of a problem that a customer may have. So now the customer visits, but he sees that because of COVID-19 precautionary measures, most of the service should be applied online. So now the customer he needed to visit the municipality, but he wasn't allowed. So now he reads that there's a new chatbot service, and he accesses it, and he collects a certificate. And ultimately, he's happy and satisfied by the use of the product. The visual basically shows how a customer is going to have a problem and use your product in order to solve that problem and ultimately be happy with it. Image on leadership principles. So these principles have been incorporated in Amazon since 2002, and they explain how Amazon conduct business, how leaders manage, and how decisions are formed for customers. So there are 17 of them: customer obsession, ownership, invent and simplify, all right a lot, learn and be curious, hire and develop the best, deliver results, insist on the highest standards, think big, bias for action, frugality, earning trust, diving deep, having a backbone for disagreeing and committing, delivering results, trying to be the greatest employer, and ultimately realizing that success and scope bring great responsibility. So let's start off with the first two: customer obsession and ownership. Customer obsession. Leaders begin with consumers and they work backwards. They work diligently in order to maintain customer trust, and they focus on customers while keeping the competition under a close eye as well. The skills required for this are humility and empathy. For ownership, the leaders are the owners, and they plan for the future. They don't sacrifice it for immediate gain. It represents the entire company, and they take the initiative to help out. The skills required for this are persistence and integrity. And we have a quote here in a picture to the right, which says the number one thing that has made us successful by far is obsessive compulsive focus on the customer. And that's from Jeff Bezos, who was the founder and CEO of Amazon. The next two are invent and simplify and all right a lot. Invent and simplify. So workers are required to provide innovation and invention to their work. They always work to simplify matters, and leaders constantly search for new and innovative ideas. The skills required for this are diligence, flexibility, and even the ability to be misunderstood. All right, a lot is where leaders have good judgment and intuition, and they look for different perspectives and work in order to disprove beliefs. The skills required for this are humility and optimism. Another video for the description.
Hello there.
Section 5. We're just going to keep going with the principles. The next two are learn and be curious, and hiring and developing the best. So, for learning and being curious, leaders are never satisfied and they always look to improve themselves. They're curious about new opportunities. The skills needed for this are learning and conscientious, or just being diligent. Hiring and developing the best is where uh, the leaders acknowledge outstanding work and willingly promote employees who develop the best, of course. The leaders create other leaders and seriously consider their coaching of others. The skills required for this are courage and investment. Delivering results and insisting on the high standards. So, delivering results. This is where you key in on the main suggestions. Despite problems, they persevere and they never settle. The skills required for this are commitment and deliver. Insist on the high standards. Leaders have incredibly high standards, and they're constantly looking for more, and they're constantly motivating their team to produce these super products that you see. The skills required for this are being exceptional and uncompromised. Now there's thinking big and bias for action. So thinking big is where leaders encourage broad thinking, and they also encourage ambition across the working place at all times. The skills required for this are innovation and optimism. Bias for action is where speed is very important in business, and calculated risk taking is a valuable skill. The skills required for this are risk taking and speed. Frugality and earning trust. Frugality is where you maximize spending efficiency, and the limits lead to resourcefulness and clever thinking. The skills required for this are creativity and adaptability. Earning trust is where leaders should listen, speak, and treat others respectfully, and they have to know that their employees are not perfect. The skills required for this are trust and honesty. Now there's diving deep and having a backbone. Diving deep. So leaders conduct business at all levels and are always, or should always, be up to date on all the details. They're expected to push through any problem that they may face because no task is under them. The skills required for this are being detail oriented and demystifying, having a backbone, and disagreeing and committing. Leaders can make tough decisions, and they have to have a strong view and be ruthless when they need to be. The skills required for this are conviction, and cohesion. Delivering results and trying to be the best employer possible. So, delivering results, this is viewed by employees as a highly important principle, and you want to rise to the occasion and be a leader. You need to deliver results for certain products and take responsibilities for ideas that you have created for a product, and trying to be the best employer possible. Be a leader that has the objective of making their work environment a cooperative and safe place. Employees must be able to share ideas respectfully with others, and they have to make sure that their employees are, and employers have to make sure that their employees are growing, empathized for, empowered, and they're ready for what's next. Success and scope bring great responsibility. The size of a company matters, and this is because it gives them power over consumers. You can see Amazon as one of the examples of this, as they're one of the largest companies on planet Earth. They empower customers, they give power to the commander of the company, and they help the company expand beyond its size at that moment. And as you can see here, next time we'll be starting startups. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next class. Thank you.